Though it's not true, a common idea is that the entire success or failure of an NFL franchise relies primarily on the head coach. That thought process is what leads to coaches getting hired when they shouldn't, good coaches getting fired too soon, and whatever Ben McAdoo was. Year after year, the composition of what styles and types of coaches changes, though they all kind of fit into certain models. Today, with the help of former NFL lineman Uche Nwaneri, we're going to meet the different types of head coaches in the NFL, and that's coming up right now. The handsome, smarter, and more in shape than you guy. We all know the type, right? He's on the treadmill at 5 a.m. before practice while looking at game film on his iPad. He looks better with his shirt off than most Patriot white wide receivers. He's not even old enough to start saving for retirement. He is the part of the newest coaching infestation in the NFL, the analytical darlings who always make the right moves. Yes, the Sean McVays, Kevin Stefanski's, Matt LaFleur's, and Cliff Kingsbury's all have spawned and reproduced in the NFL. Too bad only one of these guys, the original archetype, John Harbaugh, has actually won a Super Bowl and stuck around. We'll see what happens to the new breed, but for now, this is their league. Until they become a different type of coach, we'll see later on this list. The promoted below the zone guy. In the military, when someone is promoted to a higher rank earlier than expected, typically without meeting minimum standards, that is called being promoted below the zone. It happens all the time in the NFL, where, like in the military, someone shows competence and is rewarded as such. There's also Freddie Kitchens. Who knows whether these guys will turn into 4-star generals or stall out at light colonel, but they all have questionable experience. Brian Flores served various non-coordinator posts with the Patriots before leading the Miami Tank. Zach Taylor served in the same building as Sean McVay as a receivers and QB coach. Joe Judge was a special teams coordinator for the Pats and now has a head coaching gig. And Matt Rule did coach in college, but came out of nowhere to become a hot property and land the Panthers gig. Time will tell on these guys, but let's hope they don't get killed in battle. The finally getting a shot guy. On the opposite end of below the zone is finally getting a shot guy, and it's shameful we only have 2 on this list. Bruce Arians is the prime example, as his near 20 years of coaching from 1977 to 1997 finally got him a job with the Colts, and only got a shot to head coach in 2012 when Chuck Pagano was out with cancer. Bruce made the most of that and got a head coaching gig with the Cardinals and now Tampa Bay Gronkaneers. He has a lifetime .613 win percentage. The other is Vic Fangio, who coached in the USFL and in the NFL since 1986. After coordinator positions, he finally got a shot with the Broncos in 2019, where he's had to make do with the collection of tall white QBs Elway has fed him. But he went to or won a Super Bowl guy. They say the best indicator of the future is the past, or in the NFL, the best indicator of being able to hang on for a few more years. But he went to the Super Bowl is usually the response both the fans and management use to keep a guy around, and in some cases the only reason he gets another gig. Like Mike McCarthy in Dallas. A little unfair to put Ron Rivera in there, but you know Dan Snyder loves bringing in a name like Mike Shanahan or the wrong Gruden. And speaking of Gruden, yeah, that guy too. Kyle Shanahan turned blowing a Super Bowl as a coordinator into blowing a Super Bowl as a head coach. The past has helped keep Mike Tomlin employed through some tough times, and it appears sticking with him has been the right move. And it should buy Doug Peterson some time too, and when they win the NFC East at 2-14-1, he can say, "I told you so." The future retread guy. The coordinator position is so rife with retreads, it might as well be a tire refitting factory. Jason Garrett, Josh McDaniels, hell, Chan Gailey has a job. Jack Del Rio and Todd Bowles have to come from somewhere, and in order to get recycled throughout the league, you have to make it to the top and then get knocked back down again, which is something, depending on the outcome of this year, could happen to Matt Nagy or Sean McDermott and Anthony Lynn. Now, they are looking like they are going to keep their jobs for a while, but as soon as that bubble bursts, these guys could easily become future coordinators / interim head coaches. The ex-player. There seems to be less and less of these nowadays, and even though Doug Peterson was an NFL QB, he played for the Browns, so that shouldn't count. Our 2 current ones are ex-Pats linebacker and willing penis donor Mike Vrabel, and the the leader of the mother of all comebacks, Frank Reich. Both coaches who have Super Bowl experience as players are successful, with Vrabel leading his team to the AFC Championship last year while being smart enough to let Derrick Henry do his thing.
Would you cut your dick off for a Super Bowl?
Oh, been married 20 years. Yeah, probably.
The his name is brought up every Monday night guy. Can you even watch a primetime NFL matchup without Eric Bieniemy's name being brought up as the next head coach somewhere for a struggling team? Shoot, at this rate, the Pats are going to fire Bill Belichick and replace him with the Chiefs' O coordinator. And now, I'm going to turn it over to Uche, who will tell you about his experience with the types of head coaches in the NFL.
What's going on, everybody? It's your observant lineman, Uche Waneri. Special shout out to 5 Points Videos for bringing me on, letting me talk a little bit about the coaches in the NFL. You know, when I played in the NFL, a little bit different, but also still the same. You know, my rookie year in the NFL, when I got drafted into Jacksonville with a head coach by the name of Jack Del Rio. Now, this was back in 2007, and at this time, Jack Del Rio was one of those new trending coaches, the younger coach, the guy who brings in kind of a fresh air to a franchise, very player-oriented, just one of those, you know, it was a new trend that was starting up around that time in 2007, and Del Rio fit into that profile perfectly. He was a coach that said all the right things in the media. He had all the right kind of mantras when he dealt with his players, and he really did provide a true accounting of a player who formerly played in the league and understood what it was like to be out there on the field with players related to him by those standards. And it did earn him a lot of buy-in from players in Jacksonville during his duration of that with that franchise. Now, one coach that I did definitely think was promoted below the zone while I was in Jacksonville was Gus Bradley. Gus Bradley was a sexy pick when the Jaguars signed him to a 4-year deal after we fired the nightmare-inducing Mike Mularkey. But with his energy, with his reputation coming from Seattle, Gus Bradley was considered a win for the Jaguars. This was something that the Jaguars were looking forward to. I remember it like it was yesterday. That was my last year in Jacksonville, was the first year with Gus Bradley. And Gus Bradley was one of those guys who was always positive. He never talked in a negative light towards the players. He never went at the players in any kind of aggressive, angry way. And to be honest, I feel like that had a lot to do with his demise. He couldn't see the reality of the problems that were laid all around him in Jacksonville for 4 years with little success. I think he got just under 500 in his all-time record as a head coach in Jacksonville. But he was a guy who definitely, I don't think, was ready for that head coaching position at the time it was given to him. He had a lot of coaches that were first-year NFL coaches in Jacksonville. A lot of people don't know that. So that really does kind of put a lot more stress on your situation when you're dealing with a lot of guys who haven't been there before and you haven't been there that long yourself as the new head coach. So Jacksonville was aimless a lot during his time in Duval County, but still was a good coach, still had a great attitude, just one that needed a little bit more edge to it to help, just kind of mold him out into a better overall and all-around coach. Simple as that. Once again, big shout out to 5 Point Vids. Appreciate you for having me on this video. Had an excellent time collaborating with you. Make sure you check out my channel, Uche Waneri, the Observant Lineman. I will catch you all on the next one. Peace.
Thanks, Uche. Everyone, subscribe to his channel. There's only one guy. Hard to believe there's 4 guys that there are only one of. Yes, of course, Bill Belichick can use his mind to sell you Subway and has a lot of rings, so his eliteness isn't in question. But there's also only one Andy Reid, a coach who clearly stands alone in the need for a windshield wiper. But there's also only one Sean Payton, right? The genius who somehow always has something up his sleeve, if that includes heartbreaking playoff losses. And there's only one Pete Carroll, smart enough to let Russ cook and take his shirt off for DK Metcalf. Or so smart he outsmarts himself. Should have given it to Marshawn. Before we get to the one you have been waiting for, there is an outlier. The why are you still here guy, and that's Doug Marrone of the Jaguars. After Dan Quinn got fired, it left us with just Marrone, because we all know the Jets aren't firing Gase. And speaking of Adam Gase, the fraud genius. This list would be 3 deep if the Texans didn't wake up from their awful dream and finally fire the butt chin into the sun like space trash, but not before he gutted the franchise, traded their best receiver, and handed the Dolphins what is probably a top 5 pick in a fruitless tank. But I digress. I want to talk about the 2 coaches everyone touted as geniuses and who everyone is learning that they are clearly not. First, let's start with a guy who looks like he should be selling you discount rugs at a flea market, Matt Patricia. Because he has a degree in aeronautical engineering, this man has been dubbed a genius. Look, it's just aeronautical engineering. He's not exactly a rocket scientist. And by his current 12-25-1 NFL coaching record, maybe he should be working at NASA instead of in the NFL. And considering their track record, he'd fit right in. Patricia has been a lightning rod, often contentious, stubborn, and has already run off Darius Slay by offering unsolicited advice on whose dick he should keep out of his mouth. But hey, Lions fans, you are currently 3-3 and you know how the Ford family loves mediocrity, so enjoy him and his creepy vibe forever. And now for a man who is only employed because the Jets are so committed to bringing in Trevor Lawrence that they want to join the likes of the Browns and Lions as the only 0-16 teams in history. And that is the unmitigated disaster that is Adam Gase, who was able to leverage his job as the OC for Peyton Manning's 2013 record-setting season in Denver into a head coaching gig, which he sucked at, and then led him to take over the current Kings of Suck, the New York Jets. It must be really tough calling plays for Peyton Manning. Gase was brought into both Miami and New York, hailed as an offensive genius. His team's offensive rankings the last 4 years, including this one, 32nd, 32nd, 31st, and 25th. Not only is he abrasive, inflexible, stubborn, but you know, his teams don't win, and that's what matters. His career record of 7-16 in New York may not save him his job, but he might deliver to the Jets the next generational QB, and well, who's the smart one now? Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do not forget to check out Uche's channel and subscribe from the link below. I'm 5 Points Vids, and you made it to my next video.